Okay, this is the A Plus setup review for the week of April 7th, 2024. So, on Monday, there were no A Plus setups. This wasn't a bad setup, and it was a maybe sort of second test of this area. The bigger picture was this exhausted breakdown and then deep pullback, and we were sort of testing to see if we were going to completely break higher, or maybe this bigger pullback was going to lead to something going down. So it's kind of potentially with the bigger pattern. There wasn't really a good exhaustion. It's not completely first test, but like this is sort of a hybrid kind of trade that's not really exhaustion first test. But nonetheless, I didn't take that, and then this was going to be sort of exhausted here, but didn't get to the zone, so nothing on Monday. And then on Tuesday, we again had a test of this area. There was a really good exhaustion, a little bit of balancing here, and I was thinking this was like third test of this zone, so I wasn't thinking about fading it, and then I realized there's probably looks like a false breakdown after the open, and then by the time it was kind of clear, it was breaking down here, and I kind of needed it to come back into like 66 to take this. So Waze had this as sort of anticipating this break and this giant reward trade, and there's a lot of prediction in that. This is not an A plus setup for me, and if I had faded it on this move, then I think the zone was not up here. The stop would have been hit, and I just really didn't trade it because it was not a first test. This is a sort of a zone. It's an important zone at this point. I mean, it's resistance until broken, so that's a different trade than the one I'm looking for. But I was still willing to trade this as a failed breakdown. I just didn't get a chance to get in. And then this was not a trade. This exhaustion here was not a trade, and then there was another zone in here that was also, I think, a bias confirming zone, which was not a trade. This was the bigger picture failure. This false breakdown marked the alignment of the smaller time frame with this possible bigger picture continuation down after this move, and so this move in here was not a trade that made sense given the overall context, and this didn't make sense either, and neither did this. I was waiting down here. I think there were two zones, and I was willing to trade both of them down here. Market didn't get there. And then this was with the bigger picture and the short-term context, and I was willing to trade this. It kind of grinded up, and then it started to exhaust, but I was up higher, and then it balanced again, and then there was big news the next day, so follow-through was questionable, so I just didn't end up taking this. I wanted to be, I think, an entry at 38, and I think my stop was like 46 or something like that, and so the more it was just, once it balanced here, I was thinking, okay, it needs to go a little higher. Anyway, didn't end up taking this. This is not really an A plus setup given what was coming the next day. So if there wasn't big news at 8:30 the next day, I think this would have been a much more likely trade for some continuation, and I would have been more willing to take it a little more aggressively. And then on the news, so there was a zone here, and this zone, there was a zone in here, and I wasn't at my desk at this point, but both of these are A plus setups. You got exhaustion, and big and obvious exhaustion, and you were coming down and testing big levels down here, highly exhausted. It's a breakdown. It's an exhausted breakout from the top of the range to the bottom of the range into a good zone, and a pullback is highly likely. So the tradable pullback is there on that, and so both of these are A+ setups. It would have been -1 and then probably plus 3. I didn't set this trade up because I wasn't here, and then I was setting this up, and it was kind of grinding, and it kept grinding and balancing, and I think I don't remember where I was, but let's see, I wanted my stop up at 30, so yeah, I think I was like 23. That's where I was. I was at 23, and by the time I got here, it was still balancing. I was thinking, okay, it's not really exhausting, and so I pulled my order, and then it did kind of exhaust really fast, and I wasn't in this trade. So, but this I think is an A+ setup, and I should have been, I think, more willing to stay with this, and because of this big down move, the likelihood of a continuation, because you're trading with this larger swing, is good enough to have the dial on exhaustion a little bit less. I mean, this had come from 76 to 25, so even if it wasn't exhausted here, it was exhausted overall. So a miss there. And then this I wasn't trading on Thursday, but this is an A+ setup, nice exhaustion first test into a key zone that hadn't been tested, and it's with this bigger pattern. And this is sort of the decision: is this going to be some kind of failed breakdown pattern? It's really sloppy if it is, but is it going to attempt to be a failed breakdown pattern, or is it going to continue down? And it's trading with really the bigger pattern that's at a decision point. So this is A+. And then this didn't get to the zone. I was looking to trade this exhaustion, but it didn't get to the zone, and it's against the bias here. So anyway, it didn't end up being a trade. And then on Friday we have to start Friday, we have this smaller. We have potentially this balance here with maybe a failed breakdown. It's a really sloppy failed breakdown, but it's still there, sort of. And then what we do have is this 2-day balance breakout. So this is sort of the bigger pattern that we're trading with over here. You've got a failure at VWAP, a failure of the smaller time frame to try and make a higher high, and then just kind of weakness and failure. So it's a little ugly on the short term, but this is a key spot to hold, and it's not A+, but it's probably worth a try to see if it can hold. But this was 655, so I wasn't here for this. And then this is the A+ setup. The breakout failed. There's now a lower high on the larger time frame, and this looks like actually a lower high swing down. And this is sort of one of the decision points. In this case, I wanted my stop at 26 because I really thought it could still just spike a little bit, given it's gone from 47 to 94. And so I originally was at 1850, and then I moved my stop to 19, and then to 20. So I messed this up by fiddling with the order, but this is A+. And then this setup, I think if it wasn't on Friday, it's A+. On Friday, it's probably not A+. I didn't take this because the zone was big. I was going to have to use 2 orders here, and I did not want to use 2 orders like at 11 o'clock Eastern on Friday. So I also, it was kind of exogenous, but to talk about Iran attacking Israel over the weekend, even though it's not a technical thing, and the technicals are pretty clear here, I felt that was also something that could just make this a lack of buying here, just not that many bidders, even though it technically was okay. So I mostly didn't take it because I had to be at 78 in order to make this work, because I wanted to be out by 94 and 05, which I think was the HVN. So Mostly, I didn't want to put 2 orders here. I didn't want to take it higher because the targets weren't going to work. So in the end, I had no trades this week, which is, I think, a little bit of a artifact of the fact that I had some big losses the prior week, and I'm just trading a little bit scared. But next week's a new week, and I solved my problems I went through on, let's see, yeah. So I went through on Vulcan, and I made a whole strategy on exactly what I'm doing there. So that's everything.